For the construction of New Japan has been set based on the consensus of the Japanese people. The revision of the Imperial Constitution after the consultation of a secret advisor and the resolution of the Imperial Diet under Article 73 of the Imperial Constitution. Approve the right and promulgate this here. Your name. November 3, 1945. Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Shigeru Yoshida. Baron Kijuro Shidehara. Jose University Takudaro Kimura. Siaki Omura, a vassal of Internal Affairs. Kotaro Tanaka, Umi of Bunka. Hiru Wada, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Forestry. Takao Sato, a vassal of National Affairs. Shinshu University Sadayoshi Hitosu. Niro Hoshijima, a vassal of the University of Commerce. Health Minister Yoshinari Kawai. Etsujiro Uehara, a vassal of National Affairs. Tsunejiro Hiratsuka. Okura Umi Ishibashi Tanzan. Takujiro Kanamori, a vassal of National Affairs. Kana Shukzen, a vassal of National Affairs. The Japanese people act through their representatives in the legitimately elected parliament, and we in ours. For the sake of descendants, the achievements of harmony with the nations and the blessings of freedom throughout Japan. And decided to ensure that the actions of the government would not cause the devastation of war again. We declare here that sovereignty exists in the people and finalize this constitution. In the first place, the national affairs of the people. It is a solemn trust, its authority comes from the people, and its power comes from the representatives of the people. By exercising this, the people will enjoy the welfare. This is the universal principle of mankind, and this constitution is based on this principle. We have all constitutions, decree, and royalties that go against this. Exclude. The Japanese people wish for lasting peace and are deeply aware of the noble ideals that govern human relationships. And maintain our security and survival by relying on the justice and faith of peace-loving nations. I decided to try. We maintain peace, tyranny, and servitude, oppression and narrowness forever from the earth. I want to occupy a prestigious position in the international community trying to get rid of it. We, the people of the world, have the right to live in peace, free from fear and want. To confirm. Because we must not concentrate on our own nations and ignore others. Therefore, the law of political morality is universal, and obeying this law gives the sovereignty of one's own country. We believe that it is the responsibility of each country to maintain and establish equal relations with other countries. The Japanese people, in the honor of the nation, will do their utmost to achieve this noble ideal and purpose. I swear. Page 2. 2. Chapter 1 Emperor. Article 1 Emperor's status/national sovereignty. The emperor is a symbol of Japan and a symbol of Japanese national integration. This position is based on the consensus of the sovereign Japanese people. Article 2 Succession of the throne. The throne is hereditary and is stipulated by the imperial house law decided by the Diet. It inherits this from time to time. Article 3 Cabinet's advice and approval for the Emperor's state affairs. For all acts related to the Emperor's state affairs. Requires the advice and approval of the Cabinet, which the Cabinet is responsible for. Article 4 Limitation of the Emperor's authority, delegation of the Emperor's state affairs. It only acts in relation to it and has no authority over national affairs. 2. The Emperor may delegate acts related to the national affairs as provided for by law. Article 5 Regent. When the regent is set according to the imperial house law, the regent shall be in the name of the Emperor. Act on national affairs. In this case, the provisions of paragraph 1 of the preceding article shall apply mutatis mutandis. Article 6 Right to appoint the Emperor. 1. The Emperor appoints the Prime Minister based on the nomination of the Diet. 2. The Emperor appoints the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court based on the nomination of the Cabinet. Article 7 Acts of State of the Emperor. With the advice and approval of the Cabinet, the Emperor will be in the state affairs on the left for the people. Do the act related. I. Promulgating constitutional amendments, laws, cabinet orders, and treaties. 2. Convening the Diet. 3. Dissolution of the House of Representatives. 4. Publicly announce the enforcement of the general election of members of the Diet. v. Appointment and dismissal of the Minister of State and other officials stipulated by law, as well as a power of attorney and ambassadors and ministers. To authenticate your credentials. 6. To certify amnesty, special amnesty, commutation, exemption from execution of sentence and reinstatement. 7. To confer an honor. 8. To certify ratification documents and other diplomatic documents stipulated by law. 9. Accepting foreign ambassadors and ministers. Perform 10 rituals. Article 8 Imperial property transfer. The property is handed over to the imperial family, or the imperial family takes over the property and is young. The gift must be based on the resolution of the Diet. Chapter 2 Abandonment of war. Article 9 Abandonment of war, denial of force and right to engage. 1. The Japanese people are a country based on justice and order. Sincerely seeking peace, the war in which national rights are exercised and the threat or use of force by force are the nations. Page 3. 3. As a means of resolving disputes, we will abandon them forever. 2. In order to achieve the purpose of the preceding paragraph, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and other forces will not hold this. The country's belligerent rights. I don't admit this. Chapter 3 National Rights and Obligations. Article 10 Citizens' Requirements. The requirements for being a Japanese national are stipulated by law. Article 11 Enjoyment of basic human rights. The people cannot be prevented from enjoying all basic human rights. The basic human rights that the Constitution guarantees to the people are now and as permanent rights that cannot be violated. It will be given to the people of the future. Article 12 Responsibility for retaining freedom and rights and prohibition of abuse. The freedom that this Constitution guarantees to the people and rights must be retained by the constant efforts of the people. Also, the people. You must not abuse it and always have the responsibility to use it for the public welfare. Negative. Article 13 Respect for individuals, right to pursue happiness, public welfare. All citizens are respected individually. The people's right to life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness, as long as it does not interfere with the public welfare. It requires the utmost respect in legislation and other national affairs. Article 14 Equality under the law, prohibition of aristocrats, honor. All the people are equal before the law. Political, economic, or social relationships, depending on race, creed, gender, social status, or family origin, and will not be discriminated against. 2. The Chinese and other aristocratic systems do not allow this. There is no privilege to award honors, medals, or other honors. The awarding of the honor is actually this. It is effective only for the generation of those who have or will receive it in the future. Article 15 Public Servant Selection Dismissal Right, Essence of Public Servant, Guarantee of Universal Suffrage Right, Guarantee of Secret Ballot Public. It is a national right to select and dismiss officials. 2. All civil servants are all ministers, not some ministers. 3. Universal suffrage by adults is guaranteed for the election of civil servants. The secret of voting in all elections must not be violated. Voters are concerned with their choice. However, I cannot be held responsible either publicly or privately. Article 16 Right to petition relief of damages, dismissal of civil servants, establishment of laws, orders, or rules, abolition. Any person has the right to petition peacefully with respect to suspension, amendment, or other matters, and any person may make such a petition. Therefore, we do not receive any discriminatory treatment. Article 17 Responsibility for national and public organizations. Many people have been damaged by the tort of civil servants. In some cases, the government or public organizations may be sought for compensation pursuant to the provisions of law. N.S. Page 4. 4. Article 18 Slave restraint and freedom from hardship. No one shall be subject to any slavery restraint, or, except in the case of criminal punishment, you cannot be subject to unwilling hardships. Article 19 Freedom of thought and conscience. Freedom of thought and conscience must not be violated. Article 20 Freedom of religion. 1. Freedom of religion guarantees this to any person. Any religion. Organizations must not be privileged or exercise political power by the state. No one is forced to participate in religious acts, celebrations, ceremonies, or events. 3. The national government and its institutions shall not engage in religious education or any other religious activities. Article 21 Freedom of assembly/association/expression, secret of communication. 1. Assembly, association, and speech, publication, etc. Freedom of expression guarantees this. Censorship must not do this. The secrecy of communications must not violate this. Article 22 Freedom of residence/relocation and choice of occupation. freedom of foreign migration and withdrawal of nationality. Any number of people are public. They have freedom of residence, relocation, and choice of occupation as long as they do not violate their welfare. 2. No one will be violated by the freedom to move to a foreign country or leave their nationality. Article 23 Freedom of the school gate. Freedom of the school gate guarantees this. Article 24 Individual dignity and equality of both sexes in family life. 1. Marriage is based only on the agreement of both sexes. It is established and maintained by mutual cooperation on the basis that the couple has equal rights. There must be selection of spouse, property rights, inheritance, selection of residence, divorce, and other matters related to marriage and family. In matters, the law must be enacted on the basis of the dignity of the individual and the essential equality of both sexes. Must be. Article 25 Right to life, National Social Mission. 1. All citizens should live a healthy and cultural minimum life. Have the right to run. 2. The national government should improve and promote social welfare, social security, and public health in all aspects of life. I have to make an effort. Article 26 Right to education, obligation to education. 1. All citizens shall be subject to the provisions of law. They have the right to equal education according to their abilities. 2. All citizens should have their children receive general education as required by law. I have an obligation. Compulsory education is free of charge. Article 27 Rights and obligations of work, standards of working conditions, prohibition of child abuse. All citizens work. Has the right to work and is obliged. 2. Standards for wages, working hours, rest, and other working conditions are stipulated by law. Children must not abuse this. Article 28 Rights of workers to organize. Right of workers to organize and collective bargaining and other collective actions. Rights guarantee this. Page 5. 5. Article 29 Property rights. 1. Property rights must not infringe on this. 2. The content of property rights shall be stipulated by law so as to conform to the public welfare. 3. Private property can be used for the public with just compensation. Article 30 Obligation to pay tax. The citizens are obliged to pay tax as provided by law. Article 31 Guarantee of statutory procedures. If no person follows the procedures stipulated by law, their lives will be young. You cannot be deprived of your freedom or be subject to any other punishment. Article 32 Right to a trial. No person shall be deprived of the right to a trial in court. Article 33 Requirements for arrest. Any person shall have authority except when arrested as a current offender. Arrested unless issued by the judiciary constitution and according to a warrant specifying the offense that is the reason. No. Article 34 Requirements for detention/detention, guarantee against illegal detention. Anyone was immediately told the reason. And unless you are given the right to immediately ask a lawyer, you will not be detained or detained. Or, no one will be detained without good reason, and if requested, the reason will be immediate. And must be shown in a public court attended by its defense counsel. Article 35 Inviolability of dwelling. 1. Any person invades or searches for the dwelling, documents, and belongings. And the right not to be seized is for good reason, except in the case of Article 33. It will not be invaded without a warrant that is issued and specifies where to search and what to seize. 2. Search or seizure shall be carried out in accordance with each separate warrant issued by the competent judicial officer. Article 36 Prohibition of torture and atrocities. Torture and cruel punishment by civil servants are absolutely prohibited. Sly. Article 37 Rights of the criminal defendant. 1. In all criminal cases, the accused shall be an impartial court. Has the right to a prompt public trial. 2. The criminal defendant is given ample opportunity to hear all witnesses and is self-funded at public expense. Has the right to seek witnesses by compulsory proceedings. 4. The criminal defendant may request a qualified lawyer in any case. Defendant. When a person cannot request this by himself/herself, he/she attaches it in the country. Article 38 Statements that are detrimental to oneself. Ability to prove confessions. 1. Anyone is forced to make statements that are detrimental to oneself. Not done. Confessions due to coercion, torture or intimidation, or confessions after being detained or detained for an unreasonably long time. This cannot be used as evidence. Anyone is convicted or sentenced if the only evidence that is detrimental to him is his confession. I can't be punished. Article 39 Prohibition of retroactive punishment / non bis in idem. Any person may have acted or already been legal at the time of execution. Page 6. 6. No criminal liability can be held for acquittal. Also, about the same crime. Again, no criminal liability can be held. Article 40 Criminal compensation. If any person is acquitted after being detained or detained, the law. The government may be sought for compensation pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 4 Diet. Article 41 Status and legislative power of the Diet. The Diet is the highest body of state power and the only legislative body of the country. Eyes. Article 42 Bicameral system. The Diet shall consist of both the House of Representatives and the House of Councillors. Article 43 Organization / representative of both houses. 1. Both houses are elected members representing all the people. Organize. 2. The fixed number of members of both houses shall be stipulated by law. Article 44 Qualifications of members and voters. The qualifications of members of both houses and their voters are stipulated by law. I will. However, discrimination based on race, creed, gender, social status, family origin, education, property, or income should not be done. Article 45 Term of office of members of the House of Representatives. The term of office of members of the House of Representatives shall be 4 years. However, the place of dissolution of the House of Representatives. In that case, it ends before the expiration of the period. Article 46 Term of office of members of the House of Councillors. The term of office of members of the House of Councillors shall be 6 years, and half of the members shall be appointed every 3 years. Re-election. Article 47 Matters concerning elections, electoral districts, voting methods, and other matters concerning elections of members of both houses. The section stipulates this by law. Article 48 Prohibition of concurrently serving as members of both houses. No person may be a member of both houses at the same time. Article 49 Annual expenses of members of both houses shall be subject to a considerable amount from the National Treasury, as required by law. Receive annual expenses. Article 50 Privilege for non-arrest of members of both houses shall be members of the Diet, except as provided by law. Members who were not arrested during the session and were arrested before the session will do so during the session if requested by the Chamber. I have to release him. Article 51 Irresponsibility of remarks and decisions by members of the Diet. Members of both houses shall make speeches, discussions, or tables in the House. You cannot be held responsible for the decision outside the hospital. Article 52 Ordinary Diet Session. The ordinary session of the Diet shall convene this once a year. Page 7. 7. Article 53 Extraordinary Session. The Cabinet may decide to convene an extraordinary session of the Diet. One of the discussions. If there is a request of more than a quarter of the members of the House, the Cabinet must decide to convene it. Stomach. Article 54 Dissolution of the House of Representatives / Special Session, Emergency Meeting of the House of Representatives. 1. Dissolution of the House of Representatives. Within 40 days from the day of the dispersal, a general election of members of the House of Representatives will be held, and within 30 days from the day of the election, the Diet must be convened. 2. When the House of Representatives is dissolved, the House of Councillors will be closed at the same time. However, the Cabinet is urgent to the country. If necessary, an emergency meeting of the House of Councillors can be requested. 3. The measures taken at the emergency meeting in the proviso of the preceding paragraph are extraordinary and are after the opening of the next Diet session. Within 10 days, without the consent of the House of Representatives, it will cease to be effective. Article 55 Trial of qualification disputes. Both houses shall each judge disputes regarding the qualifications of their members. However, in order to lose a member's seat, a vote by a majority of 2/3 or more of the attending members is required. N.S. Article 56 Quorum, Decision. 1. Both houses must attend at least 1/3 of their members. It is not possible to open the proceedings and vote. 2. The proceedings of both houses shall be the majority of the members present, unless otherwise specified in this Constitution. If the number is the same, it depends on the chairman's decision. Article 57 Publication of meetings, minutes, description of decisions. 1. Meetings of both houses shall be open to the public. However, a secret meeting may be held when a majority of 2/3 or more of the members of the Diet vote. 2. both houses keep the record of the meeting and recognize that it is particularly secretive in the record of the secret meeting. Except for those that can be published, it must be published and distributed to the public. If there is a request of more than 1/5 of the attending members, the decision of each member must be recorded in the minutes. Must be. Article 58 Appointment of Officers, Parliamentary Procedures, and Disciplinary Actions. 1. Both houses appoint their chairpersons and other officers. 2. Both houses establish rules regarding their meetings and other procedures and internal discipline, and also within the House. You can punish lawmakers who have found order. However, in order to remove a member of the Diet, the attending member of the Diet requires a vote by a majority of 2/3 or more. Article 59 Voting of Bills, Superiority of the House of Representatives. 1. If the bill has special provisions in this Constitution. Except for, it becomes a law when it is passed by both chambers. 2. A bill that was passed by the House of Representatives and passed by the House of Councillors in a different way is the third member of the House of Representatives. If it is passed again by a majority of 2 or more, it becomes a law. 3. The provisions of the preceding paragraph require the House of Representatives to hold a conference of both houses, as required by law. Does not prevent you from doing that. 60 days after the House of Councillors receives the bill passed by the House of Representatives, excluding the period during the Diet recess. If no vote is made within the time, the House of Representatives shall consider the House of Councillors to have rejected the bill. Can be done. Page 8. 8. Article 60 Budget Advance of the House of Representatives, Superiority of the House of Representatives regarding budget voting. 1. The budget was previously set by the House of Representatives. Must be submitted to. 2. Regarding the budget, if the House of Councillors makes a different vote from the House of Representatives,